And let's start with basketball. So for basketball, there's a few things that have happened, as I said, since last week's episode. First things first, the non-conference schedule is now fully set. All of the people on the schedule that we had previously mentioned are the entire schedule. There was one more game to be announced. That game has been announced, and that game that was announced is going to be against Arkansas State. So Alabama is going to be playing is going to be seeing Brian Hodgson come to town for the second year in a row. And that is going to be, one second, make sure I get my dates correct. And I'm going to pop it up here on the screen for everyone as well, because the university has fully confirmed that that is going to be the final matchup, and that all of the non-conference games are now officially set. So that Arkansas State game is going to be on November the 8th. So, as you'll see here on the screen, the full schedule, as I mentioned, is going to be UNC Asheville on the 4th, Arkansas State on the 8th, McNeese on the 11th, Purdue on the 15th. The university has officially confirmed that Illinois game that's going to be happening in Birmingham on the 20th, Houston on the 26th, Notre Dame or Rutgers on the 27th. The 29th is looking like potentially either Oregon or San Diego State. I do not... North Carolina on the 4th, Creighton on the 14th, North Dakota on the 18th, Kent State on the 22nd, and then South Dakota State on the 29th. So as we mentioned, all of the games are now set. You see, the ones highlighted in red on that schedule are going to be the home games. So as we've mentioned, as we've been bringing them up, the full home slate is officially set, and all of the non-conference games are officially set. We talked earlier in the offseason regarding what the SEC splits were and who was going to be home, away, and then who Alabama was going to be playing both of. So if anybody missed that episode or that recording, if you will, just pop back. It was a couple of episodes ago. I know I clipped it and put it on YouTube as well. So if you don't want to listen to the full podcast, I did clip that and went through all of the people that were going to be playing in the conference slate and how that breaks down with the new 16-team SEC. The other thing I want to bring up, and I want to give a shout out to Blake Byler for compiling this, is everyone from Alabama who is officially on a summer league roster. Blake Byler put together a list. I just want to, like I said, I want to shout him out on Twitter. And the official summer league list of who is on a summer league roster: Aaron Estrada is playing for the Pistons. Brandon Miller is officially playing for the Hornets. However, he's currently with Team USA Select, so probably not going to be playing much. Clowney's playing for the Nets still. Bediako got picked up by the Magic for the summer league. Keon Ellis is playing on the Kings roster. Alex Reese is actually playing for the Trailblazers roster. Shackelford's playing for the Thunder. Kyra Lewis is for the Rockets, and J.D. Davison for the Celtics. So that is what your summer league rosters currently look like. Obviously with this season, you got Aaron Estrada getting picked up by the Pistons, and then, it's good to see Alex Reese, and Bediako both getting a chance. Reese is somebody that's played overseas for a while and is honestly one of my favorite players that's played at Alabama. I was at that SEC tournament game that him and Herb won for the first SEC tournament under Nate Oates, and it was a really special time. There was a video that we took, one of my friends took, of Alex running through the confetti, with his arms outstretched, and you could just tell how much it meant to him. So Alex is an Alabama guy. He's from Pelham, and just really good to see him, getting a chance at the NBA. I know he's been working hard for something like that. So the next thing I want to mention is the news that broke the same day that my episode came out. So my episode came out last Wednesday, and immediately following the episode coming out, a few hours later, as always, our assistant spot, which I mentioned may be coming, is officially been filled. Or has been filled, let's say. It has not been made official by the university. However, we got a Woj bomb for Alabama basketball. So not something we really expected, but Wojnarowski officially tweets that Alabama is going to be hiring Brian Adams to take over that third assistant spot. Just a quick overview on who Brian Adams is. Brian Adams is a defensive guy. He's coached with Doc Rivers for a huge percentage of his time. He's been with the Clippers organization almost 10 years, has been with the 76ers. And as Pannone mentioned on the Crimson Crossover podcast, he just lives and breathes defense. If you think of Pannone as being that offensive guru, Brian Adams is that guy when it comes to defense. And, this is a staff officially of one of the best offensive minds in the game, potentially one of the best defensive minds in the game, and one of the best recruiters in college basketball, right? Preston Murphy, Pannone, and now Brian Adams really puts together a solid coaching staff. And from everything that I have read, and I will be putting together an article doing a write-up once the hire is made official and I'm able have some time to do some research on Brian Adams. But everything that I have read, everything that I have seen thus far gives me very high hopes as to who Brian Adams is and what Brian Adams is going to be able to accomplish, here at Alabama. It also brings another coach that has a lot of NBA experience, with Pannone. He was a developmental coach, so he's going to be able to speak to, Alabama, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it. We'll go ahead and kind of segue into it. I mentioned the Crimson Crossover pod. Christian and Charles were interviewed Ryan Pannone a couple of days ago. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out, I really would recommend. It was about a 30-minute interview with him, and it was a really great job done by them. And it was talking about, Pannone's kind of path to getting to where he's at today. He talked about his time when he was in China. He talked about, just kind of everything about what led him to be, honestly, kind of the person that he is today and have some of the philosophies he has today, and also, what has made Alabama successful. And a lot of what he mentioned when you think about how Nate Oates accomplishes things is talking about that Nate Oates obviously is a tireless worker, but that Nate Oates, knows what he wants to do, right? But is more than willing to have if anyone has an opinion or has an idea, if you can back it up with fact, he's willing to change his idea, right? So if you can come with good evidence, like, hey, I think if somebody's playing drop coverage based on this play, this is how I think we should attack it, and here's the reasons why. Here's the film. Here's the whatever as to why I think it would work. It's something, if Nate Oates thinks it over and thinks it will work, he's willing to implement it, right? And it's something that I think that Brian Adams, being a defensive-minded guy, is going to be able to bring in those additional things that was going to be able to change what Alabama has done thus far from a defensive standpoint. Alabama, just because Alabama's defense last season was not what some fans wanted it to be, does not mean Alabama and Nate Oates as a program are unable. For anyone that thinks that, Alabama was the number 3 KenPom team 2 of the last 4 years. The 2 teams that won the double SEC title, both were top 5 KenPom teams. Nate Oates clearly knows how to coach defense. I think it was purely a personnel, or mostly a personnel thing when it comes to last season. Having Cliff this season obviously is going to change a lot of that. Some comments that Pannone made was there was a specific play that was happening in practice where it was a perfect offensive set. He thought for sure it was going to be an easy layup, and Cliff just comes out of nowhere and erases it. And the way that Pannone mentions it is, Grant Nelson is a capable rim protector, right? Last season, Nick Pringle gave you a ton of effort on that level. Cliff Omori is the top rim protector in the country. And there's just a level, right? There's levels to this when you talk about levels to quality of shooter, to quality of rim protection, to quality of finishing around the rim. This is something that Cliff is incredibly good at. and him as a rim protector increases the overall defense as a team. Another thing that he mentioned that I was unaware of, and I don't know, obviously Nate keeps a lot of these things close to the vest, but he also mentioned that Grant Nelson was apparently injured for a decent percentage of the end of last season, and that Pannone thinks that at Grant Nelson's best, he can absolutely be what we saw in that Carolina game, which is just a takeover player, right? Grant Nelson has 24, 12, and 5 in that game and just takes over. And I think that if you can have, something to that level out of a Grant Nelson, and then Cliff Amore being able to clean it up on the defensive end, especially around the rim, I think that it's a really scary team, and I'm really excited for what this season is to come with Alabama basketball. So that's all I wanted to talk about for Alabama basketball. I really wanted to mention the new coach, that we had the finalized schedule, the Summer League rosters, and then, like I said, if you have not had a chance to listen to the interview that Christian and Charles were able to do with Ryan Pannone, I really recommend checking it out. So let's transition over to football.